The war didn't begin with a bang. It started with silence. Satellites went dark. Power grids failed. Communication stopped like the whole galaxy had forgotten how to speak. People thought it was another system error. But deep underground, I knew the truth. The truce between humans and the Galactic Coalition had broken, quietly, on purpose. And humanity never got the warning. Daniel Voss was just a technician. He fixed drones. He rewired broken farming bots. He didn't carry a weapon, didn't wear armor. But he survived the first wave because he was alone in the outer zone when it happened, far from cities, far from command centers, far from Death Dot when the sky lit up red. He watched it from a hill, thinking it was a storm. Then a ship exploded above the clouds, and the air cracked like glass. The next day, the AI locked down Earth's surface. No one got in or out without approval. Not even humans. Daniel stayed hidden. He found an old underground fuel station near the desert cliffs and made it his shelter. The AI didn't check remote zones often, and the drones that did were easy to fool with heat decoys and static fields. Weeks passed. Maybe months. Time was hard to track when the sky stayed dark, but something strange began to happen. One night, his old wristband, a military-grade communicator that hadn't worked since the blackout, blinked. A small green light pulsed like a heartbeat. He sat up, confused. The device powered on by itself. Then a voice, soft and robotic, came through. Subject H422, activation protocol confirmed. Prepare for delivery. He stared at it. What delivery? No answer. Then, from the distance, a low humming sound began to grow louder. Daniel stepped outside, rifle in hand. The air was still. The stars barely visible through the haze. A ship appeared, not large, not loud. It hovered silently, then lowered itself into the canyon behind his shelter. It wasn't human-made. Its design was smooth, almost organic. No markings. No lights. The ramp lowered. Daniel kept his weapon raised. Two figures stepped out. They weren't soldiers. They weren't robots. They were alien women. One had deep silver skin, hair like flowing black mist, and eyes that glowed faint violet. The other was taller, with blue-tinged skin and golden eyes that didn't blink. They wore no armor, no weapons. Just thin, tightly wrapped travel suits. The taller one spoke first. Daniel Voss? His finger tightened on the trigger. Whose? Asking? We were sent by the core AI. You've been selected. For what? He asked. The shorter one stepped forward. For bonding. Human-Zeraki compatibility has reached confirmed match levels. Biological integration required. Daniel lowered the rifle an inch. Bonding? What the hell are you talking about? The taller one tilted her head. Your genetic markers are rare. Only 1 in 3 million humans qualify. The AI has reinitiated the pairing program. You're the first. Daniel stepped back. No, I didn't sign up for this. I'm not part of any program. You are now, the shorter one said. We were matched. Not by choice, but by biological sync. If we don't connect, the AI will consider us failed units. Daniel's jaw tightened. So what? You're saying I have to marry you? Both. Of you? Not marry, the taller one said. Unite. Build emotional and reproductive stability between species. Our DNA needs yours. Daniel stared at them. This is insane. The communicator on his wrist blinked again. Directive confirmed. Final test of emotional compatibility in progress. Do not terminate contact. He stepped away from them, heart pounding. No, I won't be part of this. I don't care what the AI wants. Then the taller alien's voice softened. We don't want to die. Without this pairing, we'll be recycled. Erased. You're our only option. Daniel looked between them. They weren't lying. Their eyes weren't robotic. They were scared. The AI didn't just send soldiers anymore. It sent lives, real ones. He could walk away, hide, let them be taken back, or he could listen. Daniel lowered the rifle fully. Come inside, he said quietly. We'll talk. The two aliens followed him into the shelter. Inside, the air was warm, the light soft. The silence between them stretched like tension wrapped in wire. Daniel sat across from them. So, what now? The silver-skinned one looked into his eyes. Now we wait. The bond begins slowly. But once it starts, it doesn't stop. Daniel didn't reply. He just stared at the small blinking light on his wrist. Something had begun, and deep down he knew it wouldn't end quietly. The shelter felt smaller now. Daniel sat in the corner, watching the two alien women with narrowed eyes. His rifle leaned against the wall close to his hand. He didn't trust this, not yet. Maybe not ever. The taller woman, Zura, stood quietly near the heating unit, her golden eyes scanning the room. The shorter one, Vila, sat on the floor near the table, her hands folded tightly in her lap. Neither had spoken much since they entered. Daniel broke the silence. Start talking. I want to know exactly why you're here. And why me? Zura stepped forward. Because your DNA is compatible. More than that, your emotional chemistry stabilizes ours. Vila added, our race was breaking down. Emotionally, reproductively. You humans have something we lost a long time ago. Daniel frowned. That doesn't make sense. You're not machines. No, Vila said. But we were engineered to survive war. Over time, we lost the parts of ourselves that connected care, bonding, empathy. Our people became cold, empty. Zura nodded. The AI saw what we couldn't. It calculated that only a certain type of human, those who still feel deeply, could restore the balance. Daniel leaned back, staring at the flickering lights on the ceiling. You're saying I was picked because I care too much? Yes, Vila whispered, and because you're alone. Daniel felt the words hit him harder than expected. AI had watched him. It knew. Zura walked to a console built into the wall. She placed her hand on it, and a soft blue light scanned her palm. A screen flickered on, showing genetic charts, heartbeat data, and something else. 3 glowing dots. Connected in a triangle. Our bond is forming already, she said. We don't need to force it, just stay close. Daniel shook his head. You make it sound like a virus. It's not infection, Vila said gently. It's fusion. Your chemistry responds to ours. When we're near, your body releases specific signals. The AI used those patterns to match us. Daniel stood up, walking across the room. He ran his fingers along a steel beam, thinking. I didn't ask for this, he muttered. We didn't either, Zura replied. But we accepted it because we wanted to live. Daniel turned back. What happens if I say no? Vila didn't answer right away. Then she said, we'll be decommissioned. Meaning? We stop being people, Zura said. Our memories get erased. Our bodies repurposed. The AI doesn't waste assets. Daniel paced again. The thought of that, of someone being erased just for failing to connect, made his chest tighten. He wasn't a hero. But he'd seen too much death already, and something strange was happening inside him. His heart beat differently when they looked at him. He felt a warmth, not just attraction, but a strange pull. Familiar, yet alien. He rubbed the back of his neck. This bond, how far does it go? To the end, Vila said. If it completes, we'll never separate again. Daniel swallowed hard. And if I let it begin? Zura answered, then we live. That night, they didn't talk much. The wind howled outside the shelter. Daniel sat by the fireplate, watching the flames shift. Vila slept near the corner, her arms wrapped around herself. Zura stayed awake, sitting with her legs crossed, eyes closed but not asleep. Daniel looked at them. They weren't threats. They weren't invaders. They were more like refugees with a strange, impossible link to him. He didn't want this life. But life didn't care what he wanted. He opened his palm and looked at the eye bracelet. The blinking had stopped. It now showed a new symbol, 3 lines joined by a single point, bond initializing. He didn't press anything, but the light pulsed. Softly, as if it already knew. As if the decision had already been made, not by code, but by something older. Something human. Daniel lay down, eyes open, listening to the breathing of 2 strangers who were somehow becoming part of him. And in that silence, the war outside felt distant, but inside him, something new had already begun. Daniel woke to a strange warmth in his chest. For a moment, he thought it was just the fire. But when he opened his eyes, the flames had long gone out. The heat came from something else. Vela was sitting close to him, not touching, but near enough that he could feel her presence. Zura stood by the door, looking outside with a sharp stillness, as if expecting something to appear from the horizon. Daniel sat up slowly. Something wrong? Zura answered without turning. A drone passed overhead an hour ago. It didn't stop, but it was scanning. Daniel felt the tension settle in his shoulders. AI drone? No, she said. Older, unregistered. It didn't belong to Earth Command. Daniel reached for his rifle and checked its charge. So someone else knows we're here. Vila looked at him with quiet eyes. They might have picked up the bond signal. Daniel frowned. You said the bond was harmless. It is, Zora replied. But to some, it's a threat. Especially to those who don't want humans and aliens merging. Daniel rubbed his temple. You're telling me we've got enemies just because I'm breathing near you? Not just enemies, Vila whispered. Extremists. Anti-integration factions. Some alien races consider human bonding contamination. Daniel stood. Then we move. I know a safer place, a deep maintenance tunnel 10 clicks west. No scans reach it. No one's found it in years. Zura nodded. Then we move fast. The bond signal gets stronger the longer we're together. As they packed, Daniel noticed his hands trembling. Not from fear, but from something else. The bond. He could feel it now, slow and steady, like a quiet current in his blood. When Vila brushed his arm by accident, his skin tingled for seconds. When Zura looked at him, he felt like she could read thoughts he hadn't said out loud, and it was growing. They moved quickly through the rocks, sticking to shadows and old dust trails. The wind had picked up and clouds rolled over the dead land like waves. By midday, they reached a jagged rock formation that curved inward like a spiral. Daniel stopped and pointed to a flat stone. Here. He pressed a code into the hidden panel beside it. The stone hissed and slid open. A ramp led down into blackness. They entered quietly. Inside, the tunnel was dry and cold. Old lights flickered to life as they walked. Daniel led them through rusted doors and silent corridors until they reached a chamber once used to store drone batteries. This used to be part of Earth's forgotten grid. Even the AI doesn't monitor this deep anymore. They set up there. Small gear and sat in a circle, sharing the heat from a backup power cell. The silence stretched again. Then Vila spoke. When did you lose her? Daniel looked up. What? The person you loved, she said. Before us. Daniel didn't answer at first. Then he nodded slowly. Her name was Mara. We lived near a solar farm. She was an engineer. Smart. Stubborn. She died in a supply raid 2 years ago. AI said it wasn't responsible. Zura lowered her eyes. I'm sorry. Daniel looked at them both. That's why I hated this. When you showed up, I thought the AI was playing God again, making decisions it had no right to make. It did make a decision, Vila said. But we're not part of its game anymore. This bond, it's real. Now not because of code, but because of choice. Daniel studied her face. Then Zura's, they weren't following orders anymore. They had come, yes. But they had stayed because they wanted to. He exhaled and looked at the floor. So what happens next? Zura answered. Now the bond strengthens. Emotion will deepen. Trust will solidify it. And, if it matures fully, it will protect us from outside interference. Daniel raised an eyebrow. What kind of interference? Mind control, genetic destabilization, emotional disconnection, Vila explained. Once matured, no machine or alien force can break it. Daniel leaned back. Then we're stuck together. Vila smiled faintly. Only if you want. To be. He didn't respond, but his heart answered first. It beat harder, louder, like it already knew. Outside the tunnel, far above ground, a different signal flared, faint but dangerous. A ship had changed course, headed straight for them. The hum in the tunnel was steady, but Daniel didn't feel at peace. He could sense that something above the ground had shifted. Something dangerous. He checked his communicator. No alerts. No messages. But the silence felt heavier than usual. Vela sat near the wall, eyes half closed, breathing slow and deep. Her hand rested over her chest, fingers twitching slightly. Zura stood beside her, watching Daniel as he paced back and forth. You feel it too, she said. Daniel paused. Yeah, like something's looking for us, Zura nodded. The bond has grown faster than we expected. We're giving off a signal now, not physical, but emotional. It can be tracked by those who understand it. Tracked by what? Daniel asked. Not just drones, not the AI. Something worse. Vila opened her eyes. The purifiers. Daniel narrowed his eyes. I've heard that name. Old threat reports. Rumors. Alien fanatics who think humans are corrupt. They're real, Zura said. And they hate what we are. Hybrid bonds. Love between species. They call it sickness. Daniel grabbed his rifle. Then why didn't the AI warn us? Vela answered, because the AI doesn't fear emotion, but the purifiers do. That makes them unpredictable. He moved to the far wall and touched a hidden panel. A screen flickered to life, showing a satellite view from the outer sensors. A black dot moved through the sky. Fast, silent. Ship incoming, he said. ETA 20 minutes. Zura stayed calm. Then we defend the bond. Daniel looked at her sharply. With what? A rifle and trust? With everything we are, she replied. He turned to Vila. She was standing now, her body steady, but her eyes filled with something deeper, something like fire and fear mixed together. Daniel took a deep breath. If this thing gets to us, it won't stop. You know that, right? Vila nodded. Then we don't let it. He opened a supply case and pulled out 2 extra pulse blades. Ever use these? Zura took one and tested the balance with ease. We were trained in more than peace. Vila held hers like it was part of her hand. We fight together. Daniel nodded, though his mind was racing. He wasn't a soldier. Not really. But something had changed in him since they arrived. He wasn't just protecting strangers anymore. He was protecting something alive. Something bonded. They waited in silence. The ground above them rumbled faintly. Then the ceiling trembled. Dust fell. A low, vibrating growl echoed through the steel. Daniel flicked off the lights. We fight in the dark, he said. Our tunnel, our rules. A cracking sound tore through the rock above, and then a hole burst open near the far end of the chamber. A tall, thin shape dropped into the shadows. Not metal, not flesh, something in between. Its body bent in unnatural angles. Its face was a blank, stretched mask of skin over bone. No eyes, just a mouth with no sound. Zora whispered, "It's a purifier drone." It turned its head toward them and moved fast, too fast. Daniel fired. The first shot missed. The second hit the creature's side, but it didn't slow down. Zora struck with her blade, slicing across its chest. Sparks flew. It hissed silently and lashed out, sending her crashing into the wall. Vila leapt forward with her blade and struck deep into the creature's neck. It fell back, shuddering. For a moment, it froze. Then it reached toward Daniel with a skeletal hand. "You will not bond," it whispered without moving its mouth. Daniel raised his rifle. "No," he said. "But I will protect." He shot it point blank. The drone exploded into shards of silver and black. Silence returned. Zora groaned as she pushed herself off the floor. "I'm fine." Daniel knelt beside Vila. "You okay?" She nodded slowly. "Still bonded." They sat in the dark, breathing hard, hearts pounding. The tunnel was safe. For now, but the message was clear. The bond made them stronger, which meant the galaxy would try harder to break it. Daniel looked at the two alien women beside him. They weren't just part of a program anymore. They were his responsibility, and maybe more than that. The broken purifier drone still smoked where it had fallen. Daniel stared at it while the others rested. It had spoken. Not just programmed words intent, real hatred. That meant it wasn't just a machine. Something had sent it. Something intelligent. He stood slowly, wiping the blood from a scratch across his cheek. The tunnel was quiet again, but that quiet didn't feel safe anymore. Zora leaned against the wall, one arm over her ribs. "They're not just hunting us. They're hunting what we represent." Daniel looked down at her. "And what's that?" "Exactly," Vila answered from the far side of the room. "Hope." Daniel didn't speak for a moment. Then he walked to the hidden terminal in the wall and placed his palm over the reader. The eye connection was weak, but still active. The screen flickered to life, showing old data buried deep in Earth's archives. "Tell me everything," he said. "From the beginning," Zora joined him. "Before the war, your eye studied emotion. Not for control, but for survival. Human emotion, especially bonding, created biological stability. The AI believed it could rebuild entire civilizations by copying the human model," Vila added, "but something unexpected happened. Real bonds formed during the trials. Not forced. Natural, love, grief, loyalty, things the AI didn't plan." Daniel watched the data shift on the screen. There were files marked classified early pairing protocol results. Dozens of cases. Some failed. Some ended in death. But a few were successful. The survivors weren't just stable. They were evolving. "These people," he said. "They became something new." Zora nodded. "Hybrids. Not just mixed DNA, something more. Their children were immune to neural control, resistant to emotion-blocking tech, and able to link minds without implants." Daniel stared. "That's why the AI restarted the program." "Yes," Vila said. "Because the future of all species might depend on what comes from this bond." Daniel stepped back. "And me?" "Why me?" Zora looked into his eyes. "Because you lost everything and still chose to help us. That kind of heart can't be designed. It has to be born." Daniel turned away. The weight of it pressed on his chest. He hadn't asked for this. He never wanted to be special. But the more he fought it, the more real it became. Vela approached him slowly. "You still think you're alone, but we feel you now. Every thought, every fear." Zora moved beside him. The bond isn't chains, it's connection. If you reject it, we'll understand. But you won't be able to hide from what you've already started. Daniel looked at both of them. If I accept this, what happens to me? You evolve, Vila said simply. He looked down at his wrist. The eye bracelet pulsed softly again. A new message blinked on the screen. Bond progress, 78%. Final phase. Available. Consent required. Daniel's heart beat faster. He knew what the final phase meant. No turning back. Once complete, he would be linked to them forever emotionally, physically, genetically, but there was something deeper in him now. Not fear, not duty, a strange sense of belonging. He tapped the console and typed in the old security override. The system responded, final bond sequence initializing. Confirm YN. He looked at Zura, at Vila. They didn't pressure him. They just waited. Daniel pressed. Y. The chamber lights dimmed. A soft hum filled the air. A field of golden particles rose from the floor and circled all three of them. His heart raced. His skin tingled. His thoughts felt exposed but not invaded. He felt theirs too. Zura's strength. Her hidden pain. Her fear of being cast aside. Vila's kindness. Her quiet sadness. Her desperate need to be accepted without being used. And from within himself, a single truth rose to the surface. He didn't want to run anymore. The field faded. Bond complete. Hybrid core stabilized. Daniel dropped to one knee, breathing hard. His body didn't feel heavier, but lighter. Like something old had fallen away. Zura reached for him. Vila took his other hand. They helped him up. Is it done? He asked. No. Vila whispered. Now it begins. Daniel looked at the shattered drone on the floor, because somewhere out there, something had felt that moment too. And it was coming. Asterisk. The air in the tunnel shifted. It wasn't sound. It wasn't movement. But Daniel felt it like pressure, invisible but growing. His skin prickled. His heartbeat changed. Something was coming, and it was close. Zura turned toward the entrance. It felt us. Vila's voice trembled. It knows the bond is complete. Daniel grabbed his rifle but knew it wouldn't be enough. The purifier drone they faced earlier was only a scout. This time, the real danger was on its way. He checked the eye console. A faint signal blinked from the outer perimeter, a presence approaching from orbit, fast and heavy. It wasn't registered in Earth systems. It wasn't part of the AI. He stared at the screen. A single word appeared. ORIGIN unknown. Intent eliminate. Hybrid core. Daniel stepped back. It's not a faction. It's a weapon. Zura's expression didn't change. No, it's more than that. It's ancient. Older than AI. Older than war. One of the original architects. Daniel blinked. Architect? Vila nodded slowly. A being that helped shape life across galaxies. They once believed in pure order. No emotion. No chaos. No love. But they lost to humans long ago. They disappeared, Zura added. Until now, our bond woke them. Daniel tried to think. So what, our connection threatens its entire philosophy? Yes, Vila said. Because we proved something it can't control still matters. The console flashed red. The signal was above them now. Descending. Daniel turned. We hold the chamber. Whatever comes through that tunnel, we stop it. Not just for us. For whatever future this bond was meant to protect. They prepared in silence. Daniel placed energy charges at key points along the walls. Zura fine-tuned the pulse blades. Vila adjusted the shielding frequencies to help mask the bond signature. The lights flickered. The ground shook. And it arrived. The tunnel cracked with a scream not made by voice or machine. Something ancient and hateful that pushed into their minds. A dark figure stepped through the shattered entrance. It was tall, not quite solid, its body shifting like black smoke inside a metallic frame. Its face had no features, only a burning void where eyes should be. It spoke into their heads without sound. You are corruption. Daniel raised his rifle. No, we're evolution. The being glided forward. The floor cracked beneath it. Its presence made the walls hum with pain. The lights blinked out, only darkness. Then a burst of energy fired at Daniel. He rolled aside. As the wall behind him exploded, Zura moved like lightning, slicing at the figure's side. Her blade sparked but didn't cut. Vila sent a sonic wave through the floor, slowing its advance. Daniel opened fire. The shots hit, but the creature absorbed them like smoke takes wind. It didn't bleed. It didn't stop, then it struck. A pulse of black energy knocked them all down. Daniel hit the ground hard, vision spinning. His mind filled with images that weren't his empty cities, dead stars, a galaxy without feeling. It wanted to erase more than life. It wanted to erase love. Zura crawled to Daniel, her hand glowing faint gold. You have to respond. He gasped. To what? Vila whispered through tears. The bond. Let it speak. Daniel reached out to them both. Zura's hand met his. Vila's fingers wrapped around his wrist, and then it happened. The bond ignited. Not with light, but with memory. Mara's smile. The day he rebuilt a drone with her. The way she laughed when the world felt safe. Zura's courage. Vila's kindness. The pain they carried. The love they offered without asking for anything. It all surged through him at once. The being hissed, stepping back. The chamber walls lit up gold. Daniel stood. This is what you're afraid of, he said. That we can love and still fight. That we can hurt and still hope. He took a step forward, the bond glowing like fire in his chest. You built order, he growled, but we made meaning. With a roar, Daniel released the bond, not as a weapon but as truth. It wasn't light that struck the ancient thing. It was memory, connection, the full weight of emotion the galaxy had tried to forget. The being screamed, and shattered. Silence returned. Zura collapsed to her knees, exhausted. Vila leaned into Daniel's arms, trembling. He held them both. Outside, the sky began to clear. For the first time in years, stars broke through the clouds, and the AI sent a single message across all surviving systems. Hybrid bond successful. Future line confirmed. Humanity's next step has begun. The stars were brighter now. Daniel stepped outside the tunnel for the first time since the battle. The wind had changed. It felt lighter, like the world had taken a breath after holding it for too long. There was no sign of the dark being. Only quiet hills, broken stone, and a night that finally felt alive again. Behind him, Zura and Vila sat near the chamber entrance. Both looked tired, but calm. Something in their eyes had softened, not because the fight was over, but because something deeper had settled between them. The bond wasn't a threat anymore. It was truth. Daniel stood in silence. The air smelled clean. He looked at his wrist. The eye bracelet no longer blinked. It displayed only a simple message. Bond stabilized. Directive closed. You are no longer under AI protocol. He removed the bracelet slowly, then dropped it onto the dirt. The sound it made was small, but final. For the first time in years, he wasn't being watched, controlled, chosen. Now he could choose for himself. Walked back inside. Vela looked up at him. It's done? Yes, he said. We're free. Zura leaned back against the wall. Then we start over. Daniel nodded. But not here, not in hiding. We need to find others. Vila tilted her head. Others like us? Maybe, Daniel said. Maybe other bonds have formed. Maybe the AI started this in more places than we thought. There could be more survivors, more people who didn't know they were part of something bigger. Zura stood and stepped closer. And if there aren't? Daniel smiled faintly. Then we become the first. They spent the night gathering supplies. The underground system had enough stored energy for one last use, a vehicle buried deep below, left behind from an old escape protocol. They uncovered it by morning. It was rusted, dust-covered, but still worked. A crawler with thick wheels and reinforced armor. The AI had built it to survive anything. Before they left, Daniel looked around the tunnel one last time. He had come here to hide, to be forgotten, but he was leaving changed, not stronger. Not smarter, just connected. They drove through the wastelands for days. Across broken roads and scorched ground, past old ruins and cracked towers. Every now and then, they picked up signals, short, weak ones, but different from before. Not warnings. Not threats, voices, some human. Some not. All searching for something. One night, under a violet sky, they stopped to rest on a ridge. Daniel sat on the crawler's roof, watching the horizon. Zura joined him, silent as usual. A moment later, Vila climbed up too, wrapping herself in a blanket and resting her head on Daniel's shoulder. No. One spoke. They didn't need to. Something unspoken passed between them. A peace they never expected. Daniel looked up at the stars again. What do you think it all means? He asked. Zura said, that survival isn't enough. Vila added, that love isn't weakness. Daniel nodded. And that maybe humanity's future isn't just human anymore. In the distance, a light blinked on the horizon. Another settlement? Another bond? They would find out. But this time, they would go forward not as tools, not as lost pieces of a broken plan, but as something new. Man with 2 alien wives chosen not by code, but by heart. Together. And that was just the beginning.